Growing up within the community I was in, being a black person in the Atlanta area, the people here in the 2000s and the 2010s worshiped Tyler Perry. And if you said anything negative about his work, you were made out to be a hater or just didn't understand his craft. It all came down to this idea that we were trying to bring a black man down and that we were just jealous of his wealth and success. When I was still heavily involved with theater and the acting scene in the late 2010s, when Tyler Perry was brought up, you were shunned if you mentioned you didn't care for his work. I used to attend this actors meetup. They always used Tyler Perry scripts to practice with, and the special guests were usually actors Tyler Perry would cast in his productions. I noticed this type of hesitation came from the fact that many black actors and content creators want to have a chance with Tyler Perry because they know he's a part of the handful of Hollywood that hires black people. Since the pandemic, people are no longer holding back how they genuinely feel about him. But those who wish to work with him and his devoted fan base still act as if we are just hating on a successful black man. So, who's afraid of Tyler Perry? The funding for this video is provided by the amazing members of our Patreon. Also contributions from viewers like you. Thank you. Yeah, I started from PBS Kids. What you gonna do? Fight me? Anyway, road video. From Is Tyler Perry the Most Frustrating Man in Hollywood? By Andrew Lawrence. Hollywood has never known a star quite like Perry. Lead of the campy Medea comedy film franchise, producing partner to Oprah and Lee Daniels, and a scene partner to Ben Affleck, Gone Girl, and Kate Blanchett, Don't Look Up. But it's as a writer and director that Perry produces the kind of work that could at least be started by an online generator. Usually some version of black woman struggling to find her way in the world again against cruel black man cast beside her. Christian values are always at the forefront. Medea, Perry's gun-toting granny character, is added to taste. The formula has made Perry one of the most powerful people in Hollywood. With a studio that dwarfs every big five, but Universal stream deals with Amazon and Netflix. It also made the Perry name a byword for cringe content. More than a week before his latest film, Divorced in the Black, was slated for an Amazon Prime debut, we made the poor formula request to review a screener only to wait to be told to see it with the public. Now that the film is out, it's clear Amazon PR was trying to head off the avalanche of negative feedback. A few days after the release, the Rotten Tomatoes critic score is 0%. In my one-star review, I called it his worst film yet. Much of this is down to the 45-year-old Perry, the first content creator among his generation of auteurs. This is a man who insists on hogging credit for the most important work in his obstinately collaborative industry while making a point of rejecting help from union writers and actors. He brags about writing reams of scripts himself, oftentimes while commuting to his private jet, takes pride in blitzering through scenes in a single take, and generally approaches work like a drug habit. It shows. Before Tyler Perry was a filmmaker, he was a playwright. In the 1990s, he moved from New Orleans, Louisiana to Atlanta, Georgia to pursue his career. His plays heavily focused on Christianity and the black household, and it's pretty clear he took inspiration from his personal life as he grew up in the black church. That right there is all you will get from me when talking about religion on this channel, by the way. Y'all have made me way too uncomfortable numerous times when you tell me I need to put more focus on God than anything else in my comment section. Therefore, this is a topic I am choosing not to speak about. His plays introduced the character Tyler Perry is most notorious for, Mabel Simmons, better known as Medea. Medea was a scene stealer. She kept popping up in the plays afterwards because the audience loved her. By the way, for those who didn't know, Medea is played by Tyler Perry himself. In my opinion, Medea is not much different than these social media comedians who throw on a wig and make fun of black women for their comedy. I can't fucking stand Shanae Jenkins, by the way. I think Martin Lawrence is a great comedy actor, but I was never a fan of this bit. Anyways, in 2001, Tyler Perry did the first show of his play, Diary of a Mad Black Woman, in January and toured the show for the entire year. Long story short, the play is about a black woman named Helen whose husband treats her like ass, and when her grandmother, Medea, finds out, she tries to help but ends up making matters worse. A few years later, after the play's run, a movie based on the play was in production and was released in 2005. This was Tyler Perry's first film, and it is what started his film career, where he went on to make numerous shows and movies to this day. While Diary of a Mad Black Woman isn't a perfect movie whatsoever, it's a pretty memorable film that people still can quote to this day, even though it came out in the mid-2000s. Now, the last film Tyler Perry put out, Divorced into Black, was disappointing as hell to watch after seeing numerous episodes of House of Pain, and for better or worse. The vibe for Diary of a Mad Black Woman was completely different than Divorced into Black, for more negative reasons than positive. To sum it up, Divorced into Black is close to being unwatchable, and that's really sad because I have seen Diary of a Mad Black Woman numerous times, by choice. You know what? Let's compare the two.
It's my scene, you know what I'm...
Hey y'all, it's Harriana and I'm back with another video. We have this problem every time. The camera crooked, give me a second. Is that better? I think it is. Hey y'all, it's Harriana and I'm back with another video. Hi, hello, how you doing? My name is Harriana and welcome back to The Pirate Ship, also known as Harry's Pirate Ship. I am the captain, you are not my first mate, and I got no first mate because you want to know why? Bring your ear closer to the speaker so you can hear me clearly. Nobody's birthday being the first mate, but hi, hello, how are you doing? My name is Harriana and I like to make content based on nostalgia and family and children's entertainment and all the issues within those spaces. Today, we will be focusing on Tyler Perry again because this man and his works are very nostalgic for me. I remember when I would go over my auntie's house, they will always be having Tyler Perry movies being played. Tyler Perry is somebody that is no stranger to my childhood, okay? And it's just kind of sad to me seeing like what the work he puts out now is looking like compared to what he has done in the past. So I thought I'd get on here today and compare his first film, Diary of a Mad Black Woman, to his most recent film called Divorced into Black. But before we get started, I want to give like 2 quick announcements and then we'll go ahead and get on with the video because I know y'all are ready for me to dissect the fuck out of Tyler Perry's work. The first announcement is it's 10 years on my channel. This summer marks officially 10 years since I started uploading on YouTube, like more so consistently, and I do have my 10-year anniversary video planned. My Patreon members know what the video is going to be about, but in order to celebrate, and also I need more space in my office when it comes to like my shop. For those of you guys that don't know, I have a small business. We need space. I have tons of new things that I have coming this fall and this winter that I want to add to shop, but in order to add those things, stuff gotta go. So everything is marked down 65%. The discount is applied at checkout. There is no code needed, but the discount is only valid on orders minimum of $10. And by the way, if you spend $75 or more, you get free shipping. So yeah, we all love us a good deal. Next, I have a zine called The Con Journey, and it is basically about my experience with going to cons since the pandemic has hit, and talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and how much the con space has changed. And I also made a piece of that zine public for free to everybody to read. It's called By Irrelevant Con Party's Opinion. So if you guys are interested in that, I will have that link down below. Now let's get on to why you actually clicked on today's video. The first movie we're going to be talking about is 2005's Diary of a Mad Black Woman. And I mean this as respectfully as possible. This movie has the structure of a Miraculous Ladybug episode. I'm not even trying to be funny when I say that. It has the exact structure of a Miraculous Ladybug episode. Some moments are very melodramatic and over the top, and then some moments are extremely chaotic. And then you have the super duper serious moments of the film. And then you have the most out of the ass moments coming in just as well. That's how it feels watching Miraculous Ladybug, watching Diary of a Mad Black Woman. Also, you can tell that this movie was made in the mid 2000s. It's dated as hell. There is a joke about Bobby and Whitney that's in this film, and I always found Bobby and Whitney jokes to be distasteful. So it was a bit frustrating to see that Tyler Perry had put that in his first movie, because a lot of people have this I don't want to say it's an accusation, but a lot of people have this assumption that Tyler Perry hates black women because of all the pain that he puts them through in his films. Because literally every single last pain, not every day, let me get that back. Every single last movie that Tyler Perry has come out with, correct me if I'm wrong, it's literally black women in pain. And it bothers a lot of people because he is not a black woman, and plenty of us just would love to have more black women to be able to tell their own stories. I have the notes sitting here on my phone, and I'm gonna be looking back and forth on the camera and then looking at y'all. Let's go ahead and get into it. I don't want to have to do a whole bunch of cuts and stuff like that, but let's go ahead, dive right in. So what is the film Diary of a Black Woman about? It is a bit different from the play, I say, and I say because of the way this movie ends, I prefer the ending of the film opposed to the play. Because, we're gonna get into that later. The main character of this movie is a woman named Helen, and she is married to a man named Charles. He is this wealthy man. They live in a big fat ass mansion. They live in the rich part of Atlanta, and he basically decides to end their 18-year marriage and leaves her for a younger non-black woman. That woman ain't black. I don't care what none of you guys say. She was never portrayed to be black in this movie. And this factor of the film didn't necessarily bother me, because that is an issue within the black community, where a lot of dark-skinned black men have a preference for lighter-skinned women, usually those who are non-black and of mixed race. And because Helen was so dependent on Charles, that was her ex-husband's name, she is lost and confused because she has no money, she has no job, and she has nowhere to live. So because of all of this, she goes to live with her grandmother, who is Medea. And Medea is actually like confused as to why she showed up in her house. She was like, you don't talk to us, why are you here on this side of town? You don't even talk to your family no more. So she basically told her, he threw me out. Like, me and my husband, we're done. He wants to leave me. So now that she is living with her grandmother for a little bit before she can get established with other things, she gets to spend more time with her family. There's a big family reunion cookout thing that is going on at Medea's house. Helen does get a job working at a restaurant, and she starts to see a man named Orlando who is friends with her brother. Now, her and Orlando actually had met prior to the events of them actually starting to casually date, and that was because her husband Charles, when he kicked her out of the house, Orlando was the one that drove her off with all her stuff. And with Orlando and Helen, it's a bit of like an enemies to lovers type story, because he did feel bad for her, but there was a lot of arguing and miscommunication going on with the two. She threw her drink at him, he was yelling at her and saying, you black women act like this, yada yada yada. It was lots of misogynoir going on here on his end. I also need to bring up that Charles is dark skinned and Orlando is light skinned. That is something that we need to put a pin on, because that's something we really need to talk about later. Moving forward. So outside of the issues that are going on with Helen, Medea is also on house arrest because her and Helen literally go and fuck up that man's house. She literally messed up his couch. That man is Charles, by the way. Helen has a brother named Brian. Like I mentioned, Brian was Orlando's friend. He's also having his own issues going on with his family. Let me tell you, the Simmons family is so fucked up. So yada yada yada. Fast forward into the future. This movie takes place over a while though. It takes place over some time. It is not one of the movies that people think take place within like the span of like 3 weeks. No, it be moving through some years. I don't even think it moved through some years, but it was some time that went through. Helen is also documenting everything that is changing in her life in her diary. That is why it is called Diary of a Mad Black Woman. And Helen is just very angry with her life because she has done so much for Charles, and he still left her for a younger, lighter skinned woman, more racially ambiguous woman to be more specific. So Helen and Charles file for divorce, and Helen leaves him for good. At least so we think she does. Fast forward into the future, Charles ends up getting caught up into some mess. Long story short, he's involved with drug deals. Are we surprised? No. This stuff also happens all the time in Tyler Perry productions. Drugs usually are involved. Charles ends up getting shot in court, and it ends up putting him into the hospital. Around the same time of Charles getting clocked, Orlando proposes to Helen, and basically it's like, hey, I want to marry you. I want to help you because I may not be able to offer you a whole bunch of money, but I can offer you love and affection. Was that Future that said that? It was Future. Helen, by the way, is very much hesitant because of all the trauma that Charles had put her through, but also in the middle of this entire proposal and him trying to convince her to marry him, we find out that Helen is watching TV and she notices that Charles is shot, and she goes to the hospital to see him. Then we find out that the woman that Charles is married to, not married, but you know, the woman that he left her for, the one that he ended up having kids with, he had kids with this woman with this racially ambiguous light bright. He had kids with her when him and Helen were married, by the way. So you want to get a feel of how trash he is? That's that. She's being a bitch, and she sees that Charles might be out of money soon, or he may not be as rich as he is. So instead of actually caring about him, she didn't care if he was gonna walk again, because he pretty much was paralyzed, I'm pretty sure, from the waist down. He couldn't walk. At least it was gonna be hard for him to walk, or it was going to take a while for him to walk again. But she was being a big ass bitch. She took all his money and left. She said, "Don't mind me, I'm gonna just grab my stuff and leave." And then we have the most iconic part of the movie, the scene that this film is most well known for. Charles tries to push Helen around. He tries to yell at her and go off on her, and she lets him have it. This is the first time we've ever really seen Helen go off on him and scream at him and yell at him, because in the beginning of the movie we saw her scream and yell at him, but that was more so out of hurt. But she was also screaming and yelling at him as a way to defend herself, because we do find out later on throughout this film that Charles had been putting his hands on Helen in the past. He's just a trash man, okay? Like, I don't care how much money the man got, he's just trash. So after Helen ends up letting out all her anger on Charles, she's hitting him, she's cussing at him, she's slapping him around, she threw him in the bathtub. That is something that we're actually gonna have to talk about, because as iconic as we think that scene is actually kind of concerning, because it was one major factor in that scene that made it a bit of a problem, but we're gonna get into that later. Basically, Helen is treating Charles the way that he has always treated her, and this is probably going on the span of like a few hours. And because of this, after she lets out all her anger onto him, it had been 3 weeks that gone by, and she ends up telling Orlando that she ended up getting back together with Charles. People were not happy with this decision that she had made. Medea especially was very disappointed with this decision. Helen's mother was talking about like forgiving him and all of that shit. And then here we go. We got Charles on the other hand talking about how he is thankful for Helen and he's glad that he has her in her life and that she's a good woman and yada yada yada. And the main reason that he is doing this, because I'm pretty sure he knows it's going to be hard for him to get with another woman, mainly because he's just lost so much, along with the fact that he is disabled now. And he's just like, oh yeah, I actually have this woman right here that's going to take care of me. Let me make sure she doesn't leave me again. By the way, he had been treating her terribly for years on top of years on top of years on top of years. Him being kind to her within the span of these few months does not make up for all the damage that he has done in the past. The thing about it with Charles is that he knew another woman was not going to take care of him. So more time passed. Helen is still with Charles, but she realizes that, this man, there might be a possibility that he's going to hurt me again, even though that so much about him has changed. She ends up leaving Charles again, and she runs to Orlando's job. She drives there, and then she runs up at the building, and she's like, I want to be with you. And then that ends this chapter of her life, and the movie ends. Also, everything that was going, didn't nobody give a fuck about Brian, by the way, but everything that happened with him and his wife and their family, that worked out in the end. We was really focusing on Helen's story. Now, that is the entire premise of the film. We gotta get into the problems within this movie, because it is recurring problems that are in numerous other Tyler Perry work. As much as I don't want to admit this, one of the major issues with this movie is Medea. Medea is the problem with so many of these scenes. There are some scenes where I say that Medea had fit in, where we actually see her be a bit more sympathetic and sad, and that more so had to do with the fact of her brother being mean to her. But let me tell you this. This is the reason why a lot of people would get irritated watching Medea films, because Medea's acting throws off the entire vibe of the scene. We have everyone here doing this super dramatic acting. It's giving drama. It is giving melodramatic. It is giving soap opera. And the way Medea is portrayed, the way Tyler Perry portrays Medea, it's giving satire. It's giving a King and Peele skit. It's giving Saturday Night Live. It's giving So Random. It's giving The Amanda Show. It's giving all that. It just feels out of place when Medea comes into these scenes. It's like everybody in this film feels like a character, but Medea feels like a caricature. Even Joe feels more like a person opposed to Medea. And Joe is also played by Tyler Perry just as well. And the thing about it is that Medea could still have been like the reckless grandmother of the family, but her acting is just completely different from everyone else's. Like, there still could have been scenes where Medea goes and messes up Charles' house. There still could have been scenes with, you know, Medea helping Helen with her anger and talking some sense to her and this and that and the third. But it's because of the way she is portrayed. Medea is not portrayed like a human being like everybody else in this film. Like, every time Medea came into it, it felt like sketch comedy. Next, we got to get into the colorism factor of this movie. Yes, this movie has an issue with colorism. I mentioned this in my last Tyler Perry video that I made, and I said that opposed to, like, usually when I talk about colorism on this channel, it has to do with female characters, but in this movie, the colorism had to do with male characters. Helen's husband, ex-husband Charles, he is this dark-skinned man, and a lot of the factors that went into his character also were not looking good too, opposed to his light-skinned like counterpart, who was Orlando. And Orlando ended up becoming Helen's new partner as the film goes on. And Orlando and Charles are completely different than each other. Orlando is very affectionate and sweet and soft with Helen. Later on, you know, when they get through the enemies to lovers part, they actually get to the lovers part of the movie. People think I'm joking when I say that Diary of a Mad Black Woman is an enemies to lovers movie. It is. And then we have Orlando over here. He's just mean and he's cold and he is just so vile and nasty. And what he ended up doing was very anti-black just as well, because not only was he treating Helen terribly, he never really wanted to have kids with Helen. And Helen is a black woman. This is a misogynoir factor that was within this film. He ends up having kids with that racially ambiguous woman. I'm pretty sure she is Latina, and he has 2 kids with her especially. And yeah, like, you know how they be talking about the preference? That's what she was. It was just super duper frustrating to watch, because there's this ongoing stereotype about how dark-skinned black men are super vile and vicious towards black women, and then they treat lighter-skinned, racially ambiguous women a lot nicer and better. Like, that was just one factor about this film that always just bothered me, because of how different the 2 love interests are. And I wouldn't even really say that Charles was a love interest in the first place, because he is the movie's major antagonist. But aside from the way Charles treated Helen, we also have to talk about how Charles was doing drugs. Like, there is drug use within this film. We don't actually see Charles doing drugs or anything like that. It was implied that he probably was doing drugs, but he was selling drugs. He was involved with drug deals and whatever. Drugs is how a lot of the way he ended up making his money. It's how he ended up becoming very wealthy. So it is just a lot of negative connotations that go into Charles's character. We are just looking at this man as if he is the most vile, most despicable human being, and we're supposed to be fawning and loving this light-skinned black man that basically, air quotes, saves Helen. And when I say he saves Helen, he low-key kind of did, because he is the one that ended up driving her away from the house. The movie does have a fat phobia problem, as a lot of Tyler Perry films do. This is still a major problem that we see in Divorce in the Black, and we will talk about that when we get to that horrible ass movie, okay? Okay. But the way Medea is portrayed, opposed to a lot of the skinny characters within this film, it is just very, like I said, Medea is literally a caricature, and it's kind of concerning to know, because that's a fat suit. Tyler Perry is not that big. Tyler Perry is not even big at all. He's just tall. He's just a tall guy. Medea is literally dressed up to look a lot bigger. There is parts where Joe is making fun of Medea's weight, and she like threatens to like shoot him, I'm pretty sure too, just as well. Guys, somebody had actually brought it up in my comment section, and like I said, as iconic as that scene is, it actually is concerning. It has to do with the bathtub scene. In Diary of a Mad Black Woman, there is the scene where Helen and Charles meet up again. She comes back to the house and she's like, I'm gonna help you, I'm gonna take care of you, okay? And Charles is like, I don't want you here, I don't want you doing all this for me. He's like, where's Brenda? Brenda is the racially ambiguous Latina woman. And he's like, that's who I want here, I don't want you here, I'm sick of you, yada yada yada. And in that moment, that is when Helen gets up and slaps him. Now, she slaps him, she starts screaming at him, she starts yelling at him, she's yelling yada yada yada, and he tries to yell back at her, but she ends up screaming back at him again, telling her like, hey, I've been hanging around my hood grandma, I've been hanging around hood grandma too much, she done rolled up on me, oh, Helen is gone, this Helen is here to stay, don't play with me, man, do not play with me, man. So this is a scene where she basically lets out all of her rage. And you know, like the part of the film where the woman just loses her shit, like where she just loses it and she screams and yells and cries and all of that. Helen did that in the beginning of the movie, but here is when she finally starts to throw out all this anger onto Charles. Now, this would have been alright if she just did like the screaming and the yelling, because everything that she said to Charles, he very much deserved it. Because like I said, it was years on top of years on top of years on top of years of Charles brutalizing her. So everything she said to him was deserved. But the part that gets a bit concerning, as iconic as this scene is, she throws him in the bathtub. Now, everyone knows this film for the infamous bathtub scene. It literally goes viral on social media all the time. But when we are aware of what is going on with Charles here, it's where it becomes concerning, because Charles is disabled at this point of the film, and that is because of him getting shot. He cannot walk, so he's basically in a wheelchair. She throws him out the wheelchair and into the bathtub with all the soap. Like I said, Charles is a terrible person, and there's a lot of nuances that go into this scene. There's like no nuances with no Tyler Perry work, by the way. But we understand why Helen is doing these things, because Charles literally put her through hell and back. But when it comes to having issues with a disabled person, in this moment, Helen ended up using Charles's disability against him. That's where it is a bit of concern. And I am doing a lot better when it comes to ableism and getting educated on that. And I'm gonna have to call out certain things when I see them. And I was like, yeah, technically what Helen did was wrong. Do I understand why she did it? Yes, but also, mind you, the main reason it bothers me so much is because there's lots of issues with ableism in other Tyler Perry's works. It's a very complicated scene though. I can't tell if this movie was trying to challenge the subject of ableism, or it was just simply being ableist to progress the plot. I don't know. Like I said, sometimes I can't tell with certain things with Tyler Perry if we're supposed to take them seriously. There are a lot of scenes in this film that I can take super seriously, but then there are others that I cannot. And with the stuff with Helen, I can take it seriously. But it's just kind of frustrating to see the way this man's disability was portrayed within the film. One of my mutuals, Black Art Media, here on YouTube, amazing channel, I will have his channel linked down below. He was the one that pointed it out in my comment section. He said, I do get how you talk about Diary of a Mad Black Woman and it has issues, oh lord. I totally get your feelings towards it. I think Diary of a Mad Black Woman doesn't get talked about enough as a disability story, and the ableism in it and how the husband's disability is used in the context of the film. It's like a bit distasteful what it is done here. I think the reason it bothers me a bit, this is just kind of like a personal thing. I think what bothers me so much within the story is that Charles slowly didn't become a better person until he realized that his disability would be able to be used against him, and that if he tried to mistreat Helen again, she might likely throw him back in the bathtub or something like that, or hit him and push him around. It's actually very concerning. The reason why it's kind of frustrating, is because he realizes that now that he is disabled, Helen has this type of advantage over him. I don't know, it's just frustrating because it's like Helen didn't get the strength to actually fight back with Charles until he ended up becoming disabled. It's woo. Mind you, like she had every right to be angry with him, but the way this movie portrayed it, it's just like, oh god. Despite all the flaws within this film, it is still very enjoyable to watch. It's still pretty entertainment. The acting performances in it are very strong. If you like Kimberly Elise, super duper talented woman. I highly recommend checking out her other work in the past. Cicely Tyson, her beautiful ass is in this film too, just as well, as she is the one who is portraying Helen's mother. This film has much more rewatch value compared to the shit that he has making now. It is actually borderline disrespectful seeing what he makes now compared to this, because was so much love and care that was put into Diary of a Mad Black Woman. Mind you, Diary of a Mad Black Woman was a project that Tyler Perry had for years, because before the film released in 2005, it was a play that ran an entire year in 2001. So Diary of a Mad Black Woman was with this man for probably like a good 5 years of his life. That's why there just was so much care put into it, even though there were a lot of things with it that were a bit shaky. Now, let's go and talk about Tyler Perry's most recent film, Divorced in the Black. Okay, Divorced in the Black. A basic synopsis of this film is about a black couple during a divorce. That's just pretty much the entire premise of this film. One comes from a very privileged background. The other one is basically living in poverty. He's not living in poverty. He gets out of poverty when he lives with her. But he has a very hard upbringing. He is a very violent person. His whole entire family is violent. That's pretty much all you need to know. That's the only premise of this story, because there isn't really much story to it. Now let's get into what this movie was about. The movie focuses on a woman named Ava, who is played by Megan Good. The movie literally starts off at Dallas, who is Ava's husband at the time. It starts off at the funeral of one of Dallas's brothers, and this has to be one of the most chaotic church scenes that I ever saw. And honestly, this thing catfished me. I thought this movie was going to be a lot better. I thought Tyler Perry was kind of going to start making watchable stuff again, because this scene was super duper chaotic. There was a lot of screaming and shouting. Tina Knowles' husband, her ex-husband. Tina Knowles' ex-husband was acting his ass off in this scene. It was super duper chaotic. The woman from Eve's Bayou, I always forget her name. I really like her as an actress. She was going off in it. Megan Good just sitting there looking uncomfortable. Tia Mowry ex-husband just sitting there like mad as ever. I gotta stop calling that man Tia's ex-husband. His name's Corey. But Corey plays Dallas, and Dallas's mother, one of the major flaws with this film that we're going to talk about later, she's basically like, absolutely not, you're talking all of this shit about my son at his own funeral. And then Tina Knowles' ex-husband, like I said, I gotta stop calling that man that too, but he's like, his name's Richard, by the way. He's like, absolutely not. Your son was a Menace 3 society, so like, what are you doing? Like, absolutely not. You wanted this funeral, we're gonna tell you the truth. So she's just like, actually, I don't need y'all hand-me-downs. So she literally starts taking off all the clothes. She's not like naked, but hold up, y'all. There is like a stain on my camera, and I didn't realize it until now. Did we get it? No, we did not. Did we get it now? I think. Oh well. If we didn't get it, whatever, let's continue. But anyway, she starts taking off the coat that they had given her, and I think she took something else off too, but she threw it on the ground, and she basically tells all of her sons, because she only has sons by the way too, and that has a lot to do with the internalized misogyny that she had and expressed throughout this movie. She tells them, take y'all brother out the casket. So they take his dead body out the fucking casket, they drag it through the church, and then they leave. And it is the most chaotic church scene I've ever seen. Moving forward after that, Dallas decides that he wants to get a divorce from Ava because he's like, I'm tired of your shit, I'm sick of your family, yada yada yada. And this is one of those relationships where it's very obvious that the woman likes the man a lot more because he does not respect her at all. And that is like an ongoing trope that you're likely going to see in a Tyler Perry production, is that a woman is with a man that literally treats her like ass. So that happened here. She has a friend named Rona, and then Rona's husband is also best friends with Dallas too. And he tries his best to like keep Dallas to calm down. Like, he tries. He don't do that good of a job, if you ask me. Rona never really liked Dallas, and she was like, Ava, you should date around a bit, yada yada yada, whatever. Like, girl, it's time to move on. That man sucked. But Dallas is the one that wants to get a divorce from Ava, and she's like, you know what, fine, whatever. This is what you want, that's what we're gonna do. She ends up going back home to her hometown. It's like a small town that's literally about an hour and 30 minutes away from Atlanta, because that's where the other part of the story takes place. That is where they move from. So Ava ends up meeting a new guy. This is the guy that she had known in the past, but both of them like kind of like parted ways because he ended up getting with another person, and him and that woman ended up getting a divorce too. So he's just like, hey, I'm newly divorced, you about to be newly divorced, why don't we get together? And I'll tell you, sometimes dudes don't know how to read the room. But anyway, people are just telling Ava, like, hey, you should really get with that man. He's kind, he's sweet. He's like, he loves animals. I think that's something that was really nice about him, okay? He had like a farm and all of that shit. So more time passes. Ava is just like, you know what? Let me just go on and move on from Dallas. I want to move on. I actually want to be with somebody that actually likes me and appreciates me for myself and doesn't like, you know, hate on me for the usual things. But also there is a scene where Dallas sneaks into Ava's home, and he comes back and he sees that the other man is there, that other man that she had interest in. He was at her home, and he's like, what is this man doing in my house? He starts fighting the man, and Ava literally like beats the fuck out of him. She dragged him out the house and they put him in the car. Now I think this was handled a lot better because he wasn't like disabled and that shit wasn't used against him in the scene. So yeah, that's one improvement Tyler Perry made here, with like a woman actually putting her hands on her A-worder, because I can't say it because the video is gonna get demonetized. So after that happens, Dallas is pissed, he's mad, he's angry, he starts stalking Ava. Ava has to file a restraining order against him, and then more time passes on. Dallas ends up shooting Ava's father. And you know what? Let's just go ahead and skip straight to the ending, because this movie, the structure of it was a mess. There felt like no beginning, ending, middle. Everything just kind of was clumped together, because when it ended and it didn't feel right. But the family, Dallas's family, ends up shooting Tina Knowles' ex-husband. They shoot him. He's in the hospital, and what causes Ava to retaliate is because she loves her father. She's literally like a daddy's little girl. She's like, oh yeah, we're not doing this. So she ends up leading Dallas back to her house. She lies and she's like, yeah, I'm sleeping with another man and you can't do nothing about it at my house. So she goes back to the house. She gets the gun that her dad had given to her a few like scenes before in this movie, because Dallas is literally dangerous. She shoots him. He dies. Tia Mowry's ex-husband dies. Tina Knowles' ex-husband gets out the hospital. The family, Dallas's family, try to like one-up them, and they're just like, we ain't scared of y'all. And then the film ends. Y'all hear the structure of this film opposed to Diary of a Mad Black Woman? Y'all already see the change. Y'all already see the change, because this movie felt like a rough draft. It felt like a rough draft, and there were scenes in it that just went on way longer than they should have. Mind you, Tyler Perry movies have always been pretty long, but in Diary of a Mad Black Woman there were a lot more scenes in the film opposed to Divorcing the Black, because there were less scenes here, but the scenes went on much longer and everything was just dragging. And I kept looking at the clock and I'm just like, how long have we been stuck here? I'm ready to move on. Let's get the Tyler, what we doing? And that's just a major problem that I have just not noticed with Tyler Perry's new films, but his shows just as well. The pacing is just terrible. Because I remember a lot of people watched the pilot for like the new season of The House of Pain. It was not a pilot, the first episode of the new season of The House of Pain. And we were talking about how the script was very much incomplete because the actors were just standing there thinking of what to say, and then a scene went on and they were just standing there like looking at each other and barely saying a word, and we were just like, ooh, Tyler Perry, bring back the writer's room, please. Bring it back. One thing about Tyler Perry movies is that there's always too much going on, and sometimes it feels like there's not enough. Because with Divorce in the Black, there will be scenes where it is just too chaotic, and then the scenes right after, nothing will literally happen, and you can literally cut it out the film and nothing changes. Because there's literally a scene with Ava's best friend Rona where her husband had cheated on her in the past, and they were like, yeah, we talked about this, and then it's never addressed again. And then there also was another scene where Dallas talks about how he ended up killing his father because his family wanted him to. It's never addressed again. I guess it can foreshadow Dallas's like actions that he does later on in the film, but you could cut that scene out and it changes nothing. There's a lot of screaming, yelling, hollering, very much over the top and kind of cringe to watch. I think Megan Good is a very talented woman, but this film was just borderline unwatchable. Mainly because bad black woman, funny, interesting, romantic, dramatic, comedic. It kept my attention. Divorce in the Black, I kept looking at my phone. I kept looking up and down at my phone just waiting for the movie to end. Like, I thought the cast was pretty talented, like most of them. I have been watching Megan Good stuff since I was young. Like I said, the other people that were in this film are like very well established black actors that you will see in a lot of black films. But they couldn't even really do much with what they were given because the material just wasn't it. It was very much lackluster. It was just boring. It was just super duper hard to get through. I was so bored watching this film because it's like we had super duper chaotic moments and then nothing will happen for like literally 6 scenes. And then the one major aspect in this movie that literally won't change with any Tyler Perry production that I watch has to be the fat phobia factor. Dallas's mother is a plus size woman, and she is the only plus size woman that we have in this film, and she literally is the most despicable being here. Well, woman wise, she's like the worst woman here in this film, and she is like portrayed to be like this unattractive, unappealing woman. She screams, yells, she cusses. She literally buried her dead son in the front yard of her trailer park. Like, Tyler Perry went out of his way. He was like, oh, I'm gonna find a way to make this the most unlikable woman ever. And he tends to do that a lot when it comes to his plus size women that he puts in his film. King of Reeds actually made a new video talking about Tyler Perry, and he mentioned something about the way Tyler Perry portrays fat women. I'm gonna have his video linked down below because the way this woman was portrayed in this film, it was disturbing. I did not like it whatsoever. And one thing that frustrates the fuck out of me when it comes to just Hollywood in general, and it's not just Tyler Perry, when it comes to fat women, why do y'all always only give them roles where they're just portrayed to be the most despicable human being ever, and they're unlikable and nobody loves them and no one cares about them, or they're super duper misogynistic and irritating? Why do y'all always portray fat women like this, but y'all never want to portray fat women as like the love interest or seen to be romantic and soft and sweet? Like, it's weird. It's actually super duper concerning, and I don't like it. Because you have the skinny protagonist played by Megan Good. She's skinny, sweet, soft, yada yada yada, and then we see the mother, because mind you, we find out that the mother literally destroyed her wedding. She literally runs up to her in the middle of the church and like throws the bouquet out of her hand, and I'm just like, Tyler Perry wanted to make the most fat phobic shit ever, and he did that. He most definitely did that. I've been seeing a lot of people talk about this film, and that is just one thing that I have not seen a lot of people address, that this movie has a major fat phobia problem. Major. While there are still major issues that Diary of a Black Woman and Divorce in the Black share with one another, the one major difference that this film has is the feel of it. Divorce in the Black felt entirely soulless. Super duper soulless. It is just truly a terrible film. It is not a film that I can try to find some type of good in it, with the exception of the actor performances and that opening scene. But this film was just atrocious. Diary of a Mad Black Woman, not perfect, but you can tell there was a lot of care put over there. There was actual blood, sweat, and tears put into the production of Diary of a Mad Black Woman, and part of that had to do with the fact that Tyler Perry took his time with that production. He actually took his time with Diary of a Mad Black Woman, and it has a lot to do with the fact that that is his first film, on top of the fact that this is a film that was based on a play. And like I said in the opening introduction of this video, before Tyler Perry was a filmmaker, he was a playwright. Tyler Perry doesn't even do plays anymore, to my attention. Last play I'm pretty sure that he done was in 2019, before the pandemic. Divorce in the Black just felt like something that he wanted people to watch simply because he knows that they'll watch it. Tyler Perry has a very devoted fan base. He has a big community of people that will literally support him. That he has people that will stand 10 toes down for him. He has people that he know are gonna watch and enjoy any little thing he makes. And I'm like, are you sure that they're enjoying it? Because anytime people talk about Tyler Perry Productions here on this platform, they're just talking about how awful the films have gotten. And mind you, it's one thing if the movie is awful, but it's enjoyable. Like, listen, I love me some Acrimony. Good film? No. Entertaining as hell? Of course. This wasn't entertaining. Divorce in the Black literally is one of his worst. One of his worst. Like, we can talk about Boo, Medea, Halloween that had Diamond White in it. Was it a good movie? Not really. Was I entertained? Yes, I wasn't bored. Divorce in the Black, boring as hell. The reason that this is so upsetting for me and my homegirl is because we are aware that Tyler Perry is capable of making much better films. Ooh. And I hate the fact that us sitting here and saying we know you are capable of doing better, he accuses us of being uppity Negroes. Listen, Tyler Perry, I've been to your film studio before. You are the uppity Negro. You are the uppity Negro that you accuse us of being, okay? I am just a college student, just be making YouTube videos to help pay for my books and be able to eat. You literally own a whole film studio. You literally make millions of dollars. You literally serve the best food in the cafeteria. It's not a cafeteria area, but the area where people have lunch. The food is A1. Y'all be having pasta and lobster in there. You are the uppity Negro. You're the one who living in the mansion. And the stuff that Tyler Perry is making now, this is not the type of stuff that got him the support that he got in the 90s and the 2000s. It's literally just the truth. Because if he made the type of material that he made now back then, he would not have all the support. He would not have that fan base. And it just frustrates me knowing that he just talks so down on his fans. Like, I could put out whatever nowadays and they still gonna sit here and watch it. Yeah, your hardcore fans deserve good stuff too. Or decent stuff at least. Like, come on, dude. We know you can do more. You can do more for your community. I kid you not. If Tyler Perry tried to put Divorce in the Black out in the 2000s, oh, no, that might have been his only movie. They was not gonna fund no more of his productions. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. This one was, I have been wanting to talk more so about animation on my channel, but Tyler Perry genuinely pissed me off with that uppity Negro comment, and we were just like, you were the uppitiest of the Negroes, dude. What you talking about? What you talking about, Tyler? Like, yeah, but I wanted to do something interesting where I compare his most recent film opposed to his first film and just talking about the major difference. And y'all can even tell how I was having a way better time talking about Diary of a Mad Black Woman opposed to Divorce in the Black. And part of my enjoyment with Diary of a Mad Black Woman has to do with nostalgia. And just me being an AT alien, I was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. It was just really like nostalgic watching the film because Atlanta kind of doesn't even really look like that much anymore because our city has changed so much. Like, Divorce in the Black is what Atlanta looks like now, and it's just become so commercialized and industrialized. Like, Atlanta used to feel more like a hometown, but now it's starting to feel more like LA and Washington DC and New York. Like, it's just so much about the city has changed. That's part of the reason why I enjoy Diary of a Mad Black Woman so much, because it just reminds me of how home used to be. But aside from the nostalgia factor with Diary of a Mad Black Woman, I took my nostalgia glasses off to watch it this time. And yeah, I enjoyed it a lot more than I did Divorce in the Black. I literally watched Diary of a Mad Black Woman again because Divorce in the Black just upset me so much, because I was just like, this is not the Tyler Perry that I enjoyed growing up. I always knew the man's work had problems, but here it's just like, are you even trying anymore? Like, he knows he's gonna keep getting rich. How much more money do you need, sir? How much more? And it's just, It's a big concern of mine because we know that nothing is going to change about his work no matter how much we talk about it, how much we speak about it. He's not going to bring the writer's room back. He's not going to bring in a lot of the other things too just as well that made his productions a lot better. So I'm just like, and you're not going to change anything. Can you at least take your time with your work, please? Because everything just feels rushed to get out and it's disappointing. Thank you guys so much for watching. The link to the sale and the zine will be down below. That's all I gotta say. Deeply appreciate your support. I love you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching and have a great day, night, or whatever time of the day you chose to watch this video. I'm just thankful that you watched it with the ads on. Alright, thank you. Goodbye.
Now that you see, you should beware of the power of three. They come to fight as fast as they can. They're dangerous yet fabulous. Because the Utonium made them eschew. They are the colors of pink, green, and blue. They'll catch you in the blink of an eye and do it all before bedtime. They coming through and fighting, and everyone they're shocking. You know no one can stop them all because of the chemical X. They coming through and coming through, and everyone they're shocking. You know no one can stop them all because of the chemical X. The Powerpuff Girls will just blow your mind. Buttercup fight villains 3 at a time. Bubbles will smile while kicking your butt, and Blossom will lead them out of their rut. Cherish and Powerpuff, 2 of a kind. Both wanna save the world before bedtime. From Townsville, Memphis, New York to LA, the Powerpuff Girls are just here to stay.